Hey, it's Lisa here with a love note for February 12th, 2021. Hope you're having a great evening. So, today, this little filter just cracked me up, by the way, because today the guides came in and talked about this idea that when people plan, God kind of laughs. It's so often the things that we have planned don't go exactly how we intend them to go. Most of us saw that last year. I mean, hell, a global pandemic hits and a lot of our plans just completely went out the window. This weekend, heading on a little trip to get to celebrate a birthday with my nephew and hello, snow. Thought we had it all planned out, and apparently the snow decides to come earlier, so plans may have to change. So what the guides actually started saying this morning and then reiterated right now is this idea that plans change. And part of our opportunity is to stay flexible. When we are overly committed to plans that no longer work or maybe are no longer in our best interest, we have an opportunity to kind of lean in and determine if this isn't the way, then this or something better. And what's the something better that can come out of this? First, this idea of in 2021, I think we should get rid of the word should. I'm kind of tired of us shoulding all over ourselves and then having the guilt or the frustration of not living up to whatever the should was. But what the guides were saying today was the importance of staying flexible. They said, when things do need to change, so often when we plan from our very logical mind. Today I had an opportunity to deliver a speech for a local area human resources organization, and it was about like tackling the to-do list. And one of the things that came up was how the to-do list is so often one of the favorite tools of control freaks. When we are trying to control our time and manage exactly how we're spending our day. And then things happen. There's inevitably the distractions, the emergencies, the stuff that comes up that can pull our attention away from the to-do list, pull our attention away from whatever plans we may have had, pull our attention away of where we thought we were going to be spending our time, our energy, our resources, whatever. And what do we do in those situations? What do we do? Do we stick to a plan that may or may not still work? Or do we allow space and grace for perhaps something even better to come along? I think this is where it's important to really be clear in our priorities. What is it that really matters to us, that's connected with our values, that from a big picture we are super committed to? And as long as we stay committed to that, the details, the timelines, the hows, the who's, the what's, the whens end up looking a little different. My daughter has been such a beautiful example of this particular lesson. Over the past 2 years, life hasn't been necessarily easy for any of us, but for her, she's a senior in high school, and here she is doing her best in school. Global pandemic hits, virtual learning. Her stepdad dies. We move 5 times in 14 months, which would be kind of stressful for anyone, but especially for someone who really is committed to the safety and security of home. Now, she could have used any of that as an excuse to start sloughing off in school or to, whatever. But instead, she doubled down on what was important to her. She doubled down on school. She doubled down on all of her AP classes, on her grades, on everything else. And even through all of the transition, all of the weirdness with the pandemic and, virtual learning and lockdowns and everything else, she actually got better in school and is now set to graduate as valedictorian of her class. And I'm so incredibly proud of her and the resilience that she showed, that even though things didn't go according to whatever we thought the plan was going to be, none of us planned for how the last 2 years went, but it's how they went. And rather than get totally frustrated and sidetracked, it's like she doubled down on what really mattered to her and her priorities and got even better, as opposed to it becoming an excuse to underperform. And I'm just personally, I'm so incredibly proud of her for that. And I know that it's been difficult, but that's one of the things that the guides were saying today. As long as we anchor into what really matters, what aligns with our soul, what aligns with our heart, what our intuition is telling us, not necessarily what our logical brain is always, committed to, but especially when plans change, bringing all of the rest of our gifts to bear. Our mind is a beautiful, amazing thing, but making sure we're also aligning with our intuition, our guides, our heart, our body, our soul, to help us determine the next right step. And so often we get clues to what that next right step is through all these ways that aren't our logical mind. And so, they're just really encouraging, use all of your senses to determine what the next right step should be. One of the things that they also said, what does your gut say? My mom, when I was younger, she used to tell me, honey, when you're making hard decisions, your mind will often say one thing and your heart will tell you something else, but always listen to your gut. It was important to her that I learned to understand, that gut feeling and what it was telling me. And ultimately, that's the voice, one of the voices of our intuition. But to listen to that, but the guides are saying, man, we talk to you guys in so many different ways that if you listen to your body, often in the gut or in the stomach, type area, fear and excitement present like the same way to me. So what I feel in my body when I'm kind of scared about something or when I'm kind of excited about something often feels like the same energy. So we have to go a little deeper in terms of what is it that I'm really experiencing here. But the other thing they said is, man, if you get goosebumps, also call them spirit shivers, pay attention. That means we are talking to you. And this is one of their go-to ways for getting my attention. And I know for many of my spiritually oriented friends that, the goosebumps, the whole body shivers, whatever. Sometimes I will get goosebumps from the tip of my head down all the way to my knees and even sometimes to my ankles. And when that happens, I'm like, got it, guys. I am totally paying attention now. And I know that it is a big thing that they're trying to communicate. And often that is the communication of what the next step is. Plans will change. My weekend plans may well have to change because the big snowstorm apparently may be coming in 24 hours earlier than we expected. So I don't want to get stuck in this crap. So I've got to be flexible and really listen to intuition to figure out, how do I get home safely? But to pay attention to all of the ways that spirit communicates with us, that our body, our minds, our heart, our soul communicate with us, so that especially when things don't go the way we think they were supposed to, rather than get frustrated, rather than get off track, rather than forget our priorities, rather than stay committed to a plan that's no longer relevant, we can actually invite in something even better. And I look at what I thought 2021 would hold in store for me already. Here we are only in the middle of, February. Already it's looking so different than I expected and in so much of a better way. Like I am way more excited about this year just because of the last 2 weeks than I would have been otherwise if I wouldn't have said yes to opportunities that weren't necessarily on the plan, but just said yes because they felt in alignment with my soul. When you start developing a deeper relationship with your soul and what really makes your soul tick, and what is true at the essence of you, then it's a lot easier to remain flexible and to make choices and decisions, even spur of the moment, that feel good, that feel like the next right step. When you know at your very essence what makes you tick and why you're on this earth, what you're here to do. If you don't know those things yet, if you don't know how to connect with your soul, if you don't know how to connect with your soul purpose, please reach out. One of my very favorite things in life is helping people to connect with their own guidance, to connect with their own essence, to really better understand what their soul purpose is, and likely has been for lifetimes. I love that. I love that. And there's little that brings me greater joy than the opportunity to do exactly that. when you do that, and when you recognize it's actually a thing that you can tap into, the entire texture and richness and depth of your life can significantly shift in such a way that it feels even that much more meaningful, that you're more aligned with the most significant contribution you can make, because you're acting from the depth of why you're really here and kind of your zone of genius, instead of the plan, whatever that plan may have been, that maybe was created 20 years ago, that's no longer necessarily relevant. That's not to say that all long-term plans aren't relevant. Some of them still very much are. You figured it out way early on and stuck with it and are kicking ass, and that's great. Not all of us have that kind of gift of clarity super early on. So for a lot of us, plans have changed. I never expected to be doing what I'm doing 25 years ago. I didn't see it. So be open. Just be open. No, change is going to happen. Plans are going to change. Be open to taking that next right step that's in alignment with your soul and in alignment with your intuition, and what you receive and what feels good. And it's not always necessarily going to make sense in your logical brain. But if it feels good in your heart and feels aligned with your soul, and it's a way for you to make a contribution on this planet and to spread love, good Lord, we need that, and we need you. So sometimes plan changing can be the greatest blessing ever, if you let it be. So with that, my friends, remember always that you are completely and utterly loved, always and in all ways, and you are invited to pay that love forward. Have a great night.